is time to destroy some stuff. Much like Cody Rhodes broke the magical throne of the North, or Stone Cold Steve Austin exploded DX's bus, we must continue the great tradition of wrestling and ensure the demolition continues, especially when it comes to some old school traditions. They're done. So that's right, I, Simon from What Culture, said those words, and this is 10 Vince McMahon WWE creations Triple H must destroy. Number 10, the similar sets. Way back in 1999, SmackDown launched the second show to Raw, and the whole point was it should be different. So the brand went all in with the blue, had this weird but cool oval-shaped big screen, and all the graphics were original too. Jump forward 2 years and it even adopted the giant fist, and there's a reason we still talk about that today. When we arrive at 2022 though, we don't get any of this. Raw and SmackDown deliberately look the same apart from the colors, and this also extends to pay-per-views or premium live events. This means despite there being all the content all of the time, nothing stands out at all. I mean, do you remember the Backlash giant hooks in 2000? Why the hell did we ever stop doing it? Even if the answer was budgets, WWE can't claim that now because they're loaded, and either way, find the money because everything really does look the same. World Wrestling Entertainment still smashes it when it comes to the presentation, but let's get back to the madness, even with those CGI overlays. No, that is not a good replacement. Number 9, the 24/7 title. It seems unfair to lay this at Vince McMahon's feet, as the rumor has always been the USA Network asked for this. Triple H seems to be done with it anyway. Since he took over, I think we've seen advance. It's still a regular on house shows, but really one of two things needs to happen. Either one, go back to the point it's so goofy you want to cry, and therefore laugh, or two, just retire it. The weird halfway house where it's meant to be stupid but also important is ridiculous. Let's be honest about it, the fans don't care. No one even bats an eyelid when it changes hands, because it changes hands constantly. I get it was good for Raw because it goes on for 45 years, but don't just fill time. Figure out a way to make every minute compelling and go from there. Number 8, the NXT system. We all know this one. Somebody would find their feet in NXT, earn their call up to the main roster, and then be totally squandered. It actually hurt because you'd invest in someone and then poof, flub you, like misplacing your child. There's no way Triple H would ever do this because that whole system was his idea. It popped out of one of his holes a few years ago, so he gets the concept. You establish a future star, and then you let them thrive on Raw and SmackDown. I mean, just look at Solo Sikoa. Paul Levesque and Shawn Michaels will also need to bring the glory back to the brand with the big takeovers and who knows what else, although I do want to say I did enjoy 2.0. It was like an odd experiment, and seeing new wrestlers find their feet was fascinating. I think a lot of people forgot what the point was. This is the one area that the new regime will almost certainly get right, because it came out of their brains to begin with. Number 7, all the banned words. Not all of these were bad. That's right, I said it, because take WWE Superstar. I like it. That works and has actually made its way through to the other side. The rest of this forced terminology is a bit silly. WWE Universe never clicked, and the local medical facility sounded like somewhere you took your kid after they bruised their knee. Also, just in case anybody is interested, no, nobody cares if you say belt or fans. They're normal words that normal human beings use. We are not offended by it. The biggest one so far is that we're allowed to say wrestler again, which is just, I don't care if you want to try and get sports entertainment into the lexicon, but it's like me saying people with hair are full heads after they call me bald. Does it work on paper? Yes, but is it ever going to stick? No. Number 6, random female tag teams. So this one is still happening. Raquel Rodriguez has jumped from Aaliyah to Shotzi in terms of tag friends, and no one has explained this other than, well, why the hell not? It's not been so bad because Rodriguez has used the time to establish herself on SmackDown, but it doesn't help the women's tag division, which clearly we are trying to build here. The decision to crown Raquel and Ali as the new champs too seems a bit silly in hindsight, as we did it for the sake of doing it, so there is still work to be done here. It's not like WWE doesn't have the talent, because they absolutely do, just needs a bit of focus and a bit of retightening. Given that I'm pretty sure Vince McMahon forgot the whole thing existed, however, and Triple H seems very keen on it, I do imagine that down the line this will start to click. We've all just got to give it some time. Number 5, literal king gimmicks. See, I'm not entirely sure about this one, because look at King Booker, look at King Woods. I think with the extra freedom WWE wrestlers are getting now, Xavier could have had twice the fun with that. It was a character for the ages. Sadly, that's all speculation on my part, and while Mr. New Day did do a great job, it just felt marginalized because it never went anywhere. It was awesome when he won the King of the Ring, but then after a few months the persona was done. The real problem is that so many people have claimed this tournament but not been allowed to use it as a real platform, much as the likes of Bret Hart and Steve Austin did. So you then start asking yourself, well, what is the point Is it there just to be there? Life is too short. This is why I would keep the king of the round and just make things simple. It comes but once a year, the winner gets a WWE title shot, so it's like a non-surprise Money in the Bank, which also helps the briefcase, as we can have another storyline that makes you forget about that one. It'd also probably move away from the Burger King crowns. Number 4, Money in the Bank. And speaking of which, let's go. Now, we certainly shouldn't get rid of the Money in the Bank concept entirely. It has legs, and for me is like the Royal Rumble. You can have the same format every year, and as long as you have some fun with it afterwards, it doesn't matter what you do, it opens up opportunities every 12 months. The problem we have at the moment is that you can tell there's no plan. So we give it to Otis only for The Miz to sue it off him, and clearly no one decided when Austin Theory would cash in. We just gave him the briefcase because Vince McMahon thought he had potential. Now that should be a reason you pull the trigger too, but you have to map it all out. How, what, when, why, and all that. Would it really be the worst thing if we gave it a year off either? I don't think so, but it was far more electric back in 2005 when it first arrived than it is today, and it doesn't have to be that way. It just needs to be a little less of a crutch. Number 3, most of the gimmick matches, or at least in the way that they're done. For example, we must have a Hell in a Cell match at the Hell in a Cell Premium Live event because that's the name of the show. Every damn year this means we're doing it because that's what we do. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at Bad Blood is turning in its grave. That doesn't even make any sense. The point though is that the cell was invented for those two because the feud was so nuts and intense they had to be locked in a giant prison. It would also keep DX from interfering as they kept being assholes, so the whole thing told you a story before you even close the door. When you already know that come June or whatever it's gonna be on the card though, meh, that's not fun and is ticking boxes on a calendar. It was the same with Extreme Rules, but at least there was some attempt to justify that by breaking up the stipulations and trying to tie them into the narrative, so hope is here. So as much as it does suck to say, keeping things organic is what we need with this. It shouldn't feel forced or like it's part of the furniture. Number 2, the draft. A controversial one this, as I like the draft. It's also good for ratings and Confession Uproar and SmackDown, but here's the thing, I prefer what Triple H is already doing. While the brand split is still alive on paper, wrestlers are now smoothly going from one show to the next as and when it makes sense. We're not being beaten over the head with this with weird terms that will be gone in a few weeks, so if Sami Zayn has beef with AJ Styles on social media, he gets in touch with the powers that be and come Raw, they're having a match. Cool, I can get my head around it. If that is the way too, it would be so strange to do a superstar shakeup because they're going back and forth anyway, so let's draw a line under it and say we're done. It's been going on for 20 years, not everything has to continue forever. Number 1, the filming. So what do I, Simon Miller the Bald A-hole, know about filming? Nothing. I am an idiot and deserve no respect, but much like other entries on this list, sometimes you just need to accept we have to move forward. Now, Vince McMahon does deserve a lot of credit for the presentation he introduced during the 80s, because not only was it amazing for wrestling, but other sports would borrow some of the ideas, including the NFL. The fact this was 40 years ago probably means we should try something else now, especially as right away, that's gonna freshen things up. Wanna know what the first part of your body is that engages with the action? Your flipping eyes. So let's be nice to them. There is also 54,654 camera cuts, and while depressing, I am used to them now, but that's another area that should be shifted. Whether it was ever effective, I can't say, but it's had its time in the sun, so let's get going with the winter. Know of any other Vince McMahon WWE creations Triple H must destroy? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Then you can head over to whatculture.com where you can actually read articles like this with your eyes. We just talked about them. Follow us on social media at Simon316 and WhatCulture WWE. And we have lots of other videos that just need you to click them. My name is Simon from What Culture. Thank you very much for joining me as always, and I'll speak to you again very soon.